Hi, my name is Eric Blanco, and I'm with my guest here today with.
Hi, I'm Adam Feinberg, English and Social Studies teacher for high schoolers.
My first question is kind of like, do you think like schools would benefit from a sex education teacher or certified sex education teacher?
Yeah, schools would not only benefit from sex ed teachers, it's part of the health curriculum that students have to take, but they only have to take it for a half year for like a semester long course. So I think that students would definitely benefit from even more of that.
If schools didn't have like certified sex education teachers, would you think that it would benefit them or harm them?
It would definitely harm them. I mean, there's a lot of useful knowledge that if kids or teenagers just had it, they would make fewer mistakes, when having sex. A lot of them don't wear condoms, and so they end up with a lot of like easily preventable sexually transmitted infections. And also, like, I've never met a teen that suddenly wanted to interrupt their entire life with a pregnancy. And so when it happens, a lot of times it's unexpected, and a lot of teens, like, there's a big shuffle they have to do, and it just kind of delays a lot of what they want, whether it's getting a job or going to college, and it's expensive. So I think that if a lot of teens just realize like there are some things you can do that would help prevent both STIs and also teen pregnancy, they would use those tools.
Do you think that kids should learn about sex at home, or should they learn about it in school?
I mean, ideally it would be at home. That would be the best place. I think that a lot of different people have different approaches. There's a lot of different religious, views on it, a lot of different cultural views on it. So it would be great if the medical information could come from parents as well. But a lot of times parents don't have that understanding, and I don't blame them because they didn't, go to school for this. So sometimes schools need to kind of fill in that gap of understanding, especially with medical things like sexually transmitted infections, and just whether or not, things like the rhythm method or pulling out, or just ways that you can avoid pregnancy and how well they work and how well they don't work. Methods of birth control, like that stuff is sometimes pretty technical, and it helps to have a teacher who knows what they're talking about.
Like you stated that parents don't understand like what they're saying, but like you said, some parents don't understand like the term like sex and all that, right?
Well, the like medical details about it, like, again, how do you get birth control, right? Like the pills, right? How do they work? What do they actually do to like the female body? Are they safe? And if you're just relying on some parents or some kids who are just hearing things from people who don't know what they're talking about, they might say, oh, I don't want to use that. They might say, I don't want to use birth control, I don't want to use condoms because there's something bad about it that I've heard, and it could be just totally wrong. And so I think you need people that have been exposed to like, well, here's what scientists and doctors have proven, with experiments and analysis and that, as opposed to just, well, I heard, from this person that I know. Like, that's a weird way of approaching something like sex.
How do you think that schools should actually find good certified sex teachers and actually are able to actually teach about sex and all that?
Well, any teacher that's majored in biology will have taken courses on like human reproduction and development. And I took a class on human reproduction development just because I had to choose one science class when I was in college, and I just chose that. And it's pretty straightforward information. So once you learn that stuff, and especially read that it's not like there's no doubt about it in the scientific community. It's established, like, this is how pregnancy happens. This is how diseases are transmitted. Some diseases are transmitted through blood and semen, others are not. Like, some are airborne. Like, that's just scientific facts. So I think that if you have somebody that has taken courses in biology, especially in reproduction and development, or in, infectious diseases or anything like that, I think that would make them qualified.
Oh, okay. Why is teen pregnancy such a problem when there are abortions?
I don't know. I mean, abortions are pretty safe when you do them legally in a clinic that's clean. It's actually, abortion's a lot safer than childbirth. More women die giving birth than having an abortion, so it's not. It's a totally safe procedure, but there's a lot of cultural reasons why people don't want abortion, why they're against abortion. If you believe that life begins when the sperm and the egg meet at conception, then yeah, every abortion is literally killing a baby. So if you believe that, then it's hard to convince somebody to get an abortion when they genuinely believe they're murdering a person. So I would say that like the easiest way to prevent teen pregnancy is to make teens smarter about using birth control, not trying to get more. I mean, look, if we have free access to abortion, that's good, right? Teens would use it when they make a mistake and get pregnant even though they don't want to. But there's an easier way to make sure we don't need to get to the abortion phase, which is just to make better birth control and make teens aware of birth control and how to use it, so they use it well and they use it all the time, and they don't have to even think about abortion.
Do you think teens are more willing to raise their child or give it up for adoption, and why?
I don't really know. I mean, based on my experience of teaching in New York City for 11 years, like every student that I've had that's gotten pregnant when they're a teenager has raised their own kid. Maybe they get help from their parents. I know a lot of my own students are being raised by their grandparents because a similar thing happened where their parents got pregnant when they were teenagers. And but I've rarely seen my students give up their kids to for adoption. Sometimes they can't like physically, or they can't emotionally deal with being a parent, or they can't financially deal with a parent, and so like other family members will take over that role, and then sometimes they go into the foster system. But I've never, but I don't really know how often it happens where teens give up their kids for adoption.
How do you think birth control affects rural areas?
How do I think birth control affects rural areas? I don't know if there's a real difference between rural and urban areas, except that in a rural area, if you are to try to get birth control, you would need to get it from a clinic or a pharmacy, and they might be farther away. So if I'm a teen and I can't drive, or I don't have access to a car, or my parents won't drive me to get birth control, it might be harder for me to get it. Whereas if I live here on 135th and Lenox, I can walk to a place and buy it myself. My parents don't need to know. So I think it would probably be a little bit easier for teens to get pregnant accidentally because they don't have access to birth control in a rural area.
In urban areas?
In urban areas, I think that it's probably pretty, it's a lot easier to get it. If you can go to a pharmacy, or especially in most urban areas, there's more free clinics and places like Planned Parenthood where they will give you birth control without your parents' permission. And since you can get there on your own just by walking or taking the subway or a bus, I think there's probably more access to birth control.
Do you think that there should be more free clinics out there for teens, and why?
Yes, definitely. Most of the clinics don't really, a lot of the services they provide are not only about birth control and abortions. Only about 3% of what Planned Parenthood does are abortions. Most of what they do is giving gynecological exams and having obstetrician gynecologists, do all kinds of, routine procedures for women. They do mammograms. They give out, birth control prescriptions and free condoms. And so I think more clinics is just like better women's health. So I think, yeah, it is. And I think healthcare should be free. I think it's weird to keep medicine from people unless you really just genuinely want people to get sick and die more often, which we don't.
Within the last 10 years, do you think anything has changed?
I know things have changed because, in New York, we've had Governor Cuomo. In Washington, D.C., we've had the Obama administration, and they've both been supporters of greater access to healthcare for teens and for women. And there's been a lot of teen pregnancy programs or teen pregnancy prevention programs that were started under the Obama administration. So things definitely have gotten better. The rate of teen pregnancy has declined. And so yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Knowing that Donald Trump is our president now, do you think that he has a good chance of actually improving it, the healthcare more?
He doesn't want to improve the healthcare more, so no. Why he doesn't want it. He doesn't. I mean, he's trying to cut healthcare funding. He's trying to roll back Medicare funding and get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which is known as Obamacare. Like he doesn't want any of that. So no, it will certainly get worse. It'll either stay the same or get worse. Probably get worse because whenever you take money away from solving a problem, the problem just gets worse.
Do you think more pregnant women should have voted for Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump?
I think that if you need health care in any way, the Democrats will provide more of that for you than the Republicans. It's certainly not great. I mean, I don't love the Obamacare Affordable Care Act. I think there's a lot of problems with it, but it is better than what happened before the Affordable Care Act. So the Democratic Party is yes, voting for Hillary Clinton would have expanded access or at least kept things the same as they are right now under Obama. And yeah, voting for Trump or not voting at all actually helped to make things worse.
You said something about religion. Do you think religion would have had any effect in teen pregnancy?
Yeah, I mean there are some people who based on their religious beliefs think that having a baby is the thing that they should be doing and that that's what life is about. It's just creating more life and life is beautiful and that when you get pregnant you have the baby and abortion is against their view of what God wants or their gods want or anything like that. And that's totally fine as long as it can still be a healthy, happy kid and a healthy, happy mom. So the problem isn't that people want to go ahead and have a baby. The problem is that we don't have structures in society to help them do that. And so I think that if there was more help where if we had more government, funding for teens who get pregnant, or we had more affordable housing, not even necessarily Section 8 housing, but if just there were ways to give people money so they could afford to, live in a place and pay their rent, that'd be great. If there was ways to have people be able to go to college where they could have flexible schedules or go to high school where they could have flexible schedules, that would help teens who get pregnant. A lot of my students who've gotten pregnant, they stop going to high school for a few years because it doesn't work when you have a kid. You have to babysit that kid during the day and you have to, kids have all kinds of unexpected things that happen. So it would help if high schools if there were some high schools that were more flexible and when you took classes and when assignments were due and it wasn't just you didn't get it in by January, well that's the end of the semester, so too bad. I think if there were ways that you could change the structure of school, it wouldn't slow students down who have a kid. And I think if there were other ways the government helped support your life, then it also wouldn't slow you down either.
And that's all the questions I have for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful job, guys.